Let's talk about the 10 best books I read in 2024. First up, we have a TikTok darling. We have The Martian by Andy Weir. So, this is one of those books that has grown on me, which is funny to say because I really enjoyed it upon first reading. Initially, I rated this an 8 out of 10 because, let's be honest, like, it's not fantastic writing. Like, there's no beautiful sentences in this, and you know I love me some purple prose. English major in me, like, was just a little bit ashamed of how much I enjoyed reading this. But that doesn't matter because I just had a good old rollicking time reading this. And that's what this top 10 list is gonna be about. This is about books that I found just so easy to delve into. I do have another list I'm going to do where I talk about books that have stuck with me throughout the year. Those are going to be your more hard-hitting, like, kind of sat with you sort of books that have deeper meanings. Just compulsively readable, and there is a lot of voice in it. This got upgraded to a 9 out of 10 read, and it was my 10th favorite book in 2024. At number 9, we have Americana by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. This was my last book read of the year, and I'm so glad that I finished on such a high note. This also has tons of voice, and that's going to be a reoccurring theme throughout this. There is a lot of emotions compacted in here. There is a lot of discussion about the immigrant experience. Not only that, it's a coming of age story, it's a love story, it's a story of struggle, it's a story of education. There are so many subplots in this, and they're all treated with equal respect, and Adichie has become a favorite author of mine, and I really look forward to reading more of her work. At number 8, we have I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jennette McCurdy. I know this has been a hit sensation, but like, I couldn't believe how just relatable this memoir was. Not necessarily because I've experienced the same things as her, but she just really comes out and gives it to the audience in a very raw way. Anger, her grief, her relief throughout all of this was just so tangible on the page. And while there were some funny parts, I didn't think it was as funny as perhaps advertised, but that was okay. I just felt like this was her telling her story, you know, nothing held back. And ultimately, that's what I want from a memoir. I want to feel invited in to the secret spaces of your life, and this book definitely did that. At number 7, we have The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. This is another one of those books where, like, I really wasn't sure how to rate it when I finished it because the ending is somewhat anticlimactic, at least for me. However, where Schwab shines is in her writing. I am reading a very popular fantasy series right now, and the writing is driving me absolutely bonkers. And all I can think about is, like, I want V.E. Schwab to write all of the fantasy books. She is just so eloquent and poised in her writing, and, like, if I'm gonna read fantasy, I need it to have a literary bent. I also just found the idea of this book so fascinating. It made me do so much thinking as I was reading, and like, it just stuck with me outside of my reading time. I was asking myself questions about what I would do in Addie's position. Because of those two things, I kind of forgive the ending and what it did to me, but I will absolutely be reading more V.E. Schwab in the future. At number 6, we have Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. If you remember, I really loved this book at the beginning of the year. I love well-known stories told from a perspective that, you know, we're not used to seeing. And this is about Shakespeare's wife and family as he is gaining traction and popularity. What I loved about this book is it wasn't all about him. This is a book about Agnes and what a strong and unusual woman she was for her time. Farrell really shines when she talks about relationships and the interconnectedness of people and their emotions concerning one another. She also did a really great job with setting, and I really was transported back into this time period. I did also read The Marriage Portrait this year, and that is not as well done as Hamnet. That one felt a little ordinary. And so I'm really looking forward to reading more of her fiction in the future to see if this is kind of a one-off. At number 5, in the first of my 10 out of 10 books, we have Dear Ijewale, or A Feminist Manifesto and 15 Suggestions by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, the only author to have made my best 10 twice. This was inspired because she had a friend who was having a baby daughter who wanted to learn how to teach her to be a feminist. Chimamanda writes her a letter with 15 suggestions on just how to do that. And this book was like a warm hug. It is what I wish, you know, I had been given in junior high or high school, because it would have so changed my thought process of growing up and being a woman in the world. I think every parent should read this, but I also think, even if you don't have children, it is something we should all strive to try to mentor into the next generation. It is teaching them how to love themselves, how to live with the absence of shame, whether that be sexual, bodily, mentally. The best part is you can read this in an hour. So please go out there and do it. At number 4, we have Bird Box by Josh Malerman. Are you as surprised as I am that this made it this far up the list? Because I don't read thriller/horror. But let me tell you, I had already watched the movie, and so I knew the premise of this book, and yet this book had me gripped and on the edge of my seat, and again, thinking about how I would have tried to live my life in such a situation. I was just entrenched, and my main issue typically with thrillers is that they can be kind of corny, and I did not feel any of that at all. This was well written, and I felt, the more primal emotions really tugged from me. Though it got bad reviews, but apparently there is a sequel to this, and I really do want to read it. At number 3, we have The Echo Wife by Sarah Gailey. This is another one of those books where I wish I could just take Sarah Gailey and have her write other science fiction. She was able to write in a way that carried me through the book, but done in a beautiful way. Small caveat to that, I did read another one of her books this year, Upright Women Wanted, and that was nowhere near as good. This book is a prime example of an unlikable character that I could really relate to. I often struggle with characters that I don't like, and I kind of shy away from books, but this one does it in a way that feels so relatable, and you could understand why she did the things she did. I'll admit this one also took me a little bit by surprise. This one also had a bit of a thriller aspect to it that I normally don't gravitate towards, but it worked really well. Like, it wasn't the main premise. I think it worked really well with the sci-fi element. At number 2, we have The Rules of Civility by Amor Towles. When I say I was in 1930s New York, I mean it. Towles has such a distinguished way of writing. You can almost feel the mood lighting, the cigarette smoke, and my God, the witty banter. I just loved it so much. I am a sucker for good dialogue, and I am a sucker for characters that just have, that perfect chemistry with each other, and this book has that in spades. I can get distracted when I'm reading, and this is one of those books that sucked me in so deeply I almost felt like I forgot where I was. It's also one of those books I really liked the framing element of it, which, like, sometimes I find those gimmicky, but this one works. And last but certainly not least, we have I Capture the Castle by Dodie Smith. This book is the book of my heart this year. It is voicey, it is funny, it's a little bit kooky, and it's a little bit hard to define. To call this a coming of age or a romance cheapens how good this book is. Writing is pristine, the characters are so well developed. I really truly felt like they were people I knew, they were people I wanted to be friends with. They all have these delicious quirks, even the minor characters, and the castle/house itself even felt like a character. Dodie just has such a great way to make her writing feel so accessible, and yet it is so elevated. If you like Jane Austen, if you are an Anglophile, you will like this. It has comedy of manners, it has critiques on class, and a discussion of what art means and what the bonds are that hold us together.